Oh, yeah, well. Who knows how to change a clock, huh? Testing 1, 2, very good. Let me call the meeting to order by announcing that it is March 13, 2023. The time is really 5:30 p.m. despite what that clock says at the back wall. We're at 10 West State Street here for a regular city council meeting in the city council chambers. I have to read this proviso. I don't need the first one. Good. Well, we've called to order. Anybody who can stand, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, then we do the roll call before I read that public comment proviso, huh?
Hoop,
Here.
Isom,
Here.
Kell,
Here.
Bodyhoff,
Here.
Schneider,
Here.
Thompson,
Here.
Walker,
Here.
Very good. We have a quorum, and here is the proviso. Members of the public may make comments on any item that was not on the agenda during this time. To do so, you have to approach the mic, state your name and address for the record, limit your comments to 3 minutes unless a longer comment is authorized by the mayor. Direct your comments to the mayor and council as a whole, and the mayor and councilors are not to engage in discussion or debate on items raised by members of the public, and no action may be taken on those items in order to comply with the open meetings laws. And it is now time for that public comment before we go on to the mayor, council, and administrator comments. Anybody from the public wish to comment?
Hello, Jim Shaw, 522 North 2nd Street. I'm here tonight to speak about our vicious dog ordinance and pit bulls. Because of the limited amount of time I had last week, the meeting, I will continue tonight. The two incidents I spoke about last week were on the national news the following Tuesday night. In the past 5 days, there have been at least 3 pit bull attacks, one resulting in death. Another where a woman said she could not believe it happened as her dog snuggled and slept with her every night in the bed before attacking her and tearing her nose off, requiring 80 stitches. A student at the University of Texas at Dallas was mauled when she showed up at a home to walk 2 dogs. When she opened the door of the animals, a German Shepherd mix and a pit bull pounced on her and pinned her down. She says, "I literally felt the skin hanging from my face. I thought I was going to die." She had to be resuscitated multiple times and put in a medically induced coma for a week, CBS News reported. "We can't make entry because of the dogs," a cop can be heard saying. It took 37 minutes for the time officers arrived to when medics felt it safe enough to enter the premises. 37 minutes. I cannot possibly imagine why it would take 37 minutes to get inside because I assume the officers had guns. The dogs were so violent and bloodthirsty they tore off all of her clothes, including her blue jeans. The dogs tore off and ate both of Jacqueline's ears, her nose, her lips, and most of her face below her eye. Do we want this happening in our town? No, we do not. Last Monday night, one week ago tonight, I was at risk of being a victim as 2 large pit bulls were running loose down my street 50 feet from my front door. I called the police. They said they had a report earlier and had sent a car, but they'd send a car out again. The solution to this problem is not prohibiting pit bulls, although that's something I'd like to do. A compromise would be to put an ordinance in place that is similar to the one in Des Moines. First, a $100,000 minimum liability insurance so people would not have to pay their own medical bills. All pit bulls kept outside must be penned inside a minimum 6-foot-high chain-link fence buried at least 2 feet in the retractable leash and must be handled by an 18-year-old person or older. No exceptions, and there should be strict fines for any violation. The reason for the age requirement, I imagine, is because of a circumstance I saw recently where a large pit bull was lunging against a 15-foot retractable leash as it walked its human who did not have it under control. I have had 5 Doberman pinschers and I love the breed, but they were all very well obedience trained, and I had a 6-foot wood fence in my backyards. Pit bulls are a problem in our town, and we are putting our citizens at risk, something that shouldn't happen.
You timed that perfectly to 3 minutes, Jim.
I've practiced at home.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Julie Shasso, and I live at 1811 East Merle Hibbs Boulevard. I'm here today because I have submitted an application for the storm sewer utility rate credit, and I'm asking the council to grant it. And I'd like to thank you for your consideration and time in looking at the application. We have been trying to resolve this since 2017, when we received the initial letter stating that we were going to be charged a monthly sewer fee. The new letter we just received stated that we owed $1,705.33 and was due within 30 days, or there'd be a lien placed on our property. To give you some history, my husband purchased the property back in 1977, and then we purchased additional property to the east in 1989. We were then annexed into the city in the 1990s. It's my understanding that your property cannot be annexed into the city for the revenue only, and that the city is required to give you services in return. But in 2001, when we started to build our new house to the east of our home, we asked the city if we could connect to sewer and water at that location. We were laughed at and told, not in your lifetime. So 15 years later, in 2017, the city decided to send us a sewer bill to help support their infrastructure of the city sewer system, or risk being disconnected. Disconnected from what? Because we have a septic system. After we approached the city on this issue, we were told to get a watershed study that showed the water runoff from our property did not go through any city sewer system. The study determined that the most of the water is being absorbed by our lawn, but if any water made it to the ditch, it would run away from town, east to the creek, and then out to the Iowa River. The problem seems to be that there's a culvert about a quarter-mile east down the road, and the water runs through that culvert to the other side of the road and then on out away from town to the creek and then to the river. That culvert has been there long before we moved onto the property 45 years ago. And it was put in to keep the water on the south side of the ditch free from the farm field runoff. Our house was compared to the houses on Country Club Lane when they determined the tax evaluation and assessment, but yet we don't have city water. Ours is rural. They have a sewer hookup. Ours is septic. They have paved roads. Ours is gravel. The gravel road is maintained by the county, not the city. We do not have cable or high-speed internet like they have on Country Club Lane houses. The culvert should be grandfathered in since it's been in use already for many years prior to the annexation and not connected to any city sewer system. We received zero services for the $7,534 of yearly property tax that we pay for our home at 1811. And the storm sewer bill was like rubbing salt into a wound. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Time for council comments, if anyone wants to speak. Okay,
Your Honor, I would like to, if I could.
you may.
2 weeks ago on Monday night, when we were here in the council chambers for our meeting, Steve Hartman from CBS News was at Riverside Cemetery filming a story about the, for lack of better words, the love connection between two geese. So that aired that following Friday on CBS Evening News, National News. It re-aired Sunday, the following Sunday. It's a 2.5-minute little video. Great story, great publicity for Marshalltown, Iowa. So I was hoping to be able to show that video tonight, but I was told that that was not appropriate. So I'm telling the public that you can still see that video on YouTube or CBS News' website. Just Google Marshalltown, Iowa, goose love story, whatever, you know. It's a great little story about Riverside Cemetery, a great story about Marshalltown. So just want to give a shout out to them for that. So thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Administrator comments?
None, Your Honor.
None for the mayor either. Let's move on to see if anybody wants to move to approve the consent agenda.
I'd move to approve, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Roll call.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Very good. Read when able.
approve the minutes for the February 27th, 2023 meeting. The bill lists the amount of $1,368,975.62. Receipt of building and trade permit report for February 2023. Appoint Paul Ullman and Tim Uri to the Stormwater Advisory Committee for a 4-year term, January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2026. Resolution 2023-44, declaring certain property surplus property and authorizing disposal thereof from the Street Division of the Public Works Department. Resolution 2023-45, approving the Title VI agreement and assurances for the city of Marshalltown and adopting such as the city's policy for the full compliance of the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Resolution 2023-46, approving a quitclaim deed to establish city ownership of the vacated alley in the 900 block of South 11th Avenue. Resolution 2023-47, setting a public hearing for the conveyance and transfer of title to a portion of vacated but unconveyed alley to the 900 block of South 11th Avenue to abutting property owners. Resolution 2023-48, accepting bid and authorizing the purchase of 2 2023 Chevy Tahoe police package vehicles from Carl Chevrolet for the price of $120,375.94 for the use in the police department as emergency response vehicles and declaring certain property as surplus property and authorizing sale and disposal thereof to Carl Chevrolet of 2 2017 Ford Intercept police package vehicles for $11,000. Resolution 2023-49, setting a date of meeting at which it is proposed to approve the development agreement for Betty's Properties LLC, including annual appropriation tax increment payments. Resolution 2023-50, setting a public hearing for the proposed vacation of the east-west alley north of 328 South 3rd Avenue.
Very good. On to reports. We have one of those tonight from Mid-Iowa Community Action Service.
Hello. Hi, thank you so much for the time to share a little bit more about Micah and what we've been up to. I'm Clarissa Thompson, and I'm the Executive Director of Mid-Iowa Community Action. And we would like to take the opportunity this evening to share more about Micah and our work and our partnership with Marshalltown families. Tonight, I will share a very brief introduction about community action, poverty, a lot of data, a snapshot of individuals and families served, and services provided by Micah. So let's begin. Mid-Iowa Community Action was established in 1965 as a part of President Johnson's Economic Opportunity Act as a war on poverty. Across the country, there are 1,000 community action agencies, and in Iowa, there are 16 community action agencies serving children, families, and community, all locally designed and focused on helping people change their lives. Poverty is a very deep and complex issue that most likely will affect over 1/2 of Americans at some point in their adult life. Micah is helping families affected by the conditions of poverty meet their goals, build on their strengths, and achieve their goals. Micah cares about the entire community, and our values of compassion, advocacy, resiliency, equity, and service guide our work every day. Our service area covers the counties of Hardin, Marshall, Poweshiek, Tama, and Story counties. And in the last fiscal year, we served over 18,000 individuals. But from the period of October 1 of 21 to September 30th of 22, our fiscal year, Micah served 6,000 individuals in 2,200 households in Marshall County. And we think 95% of those served were Marshalltownians. To have an idea of our scope of numbers served, picture our number equivalent to the Marshalltown Community School District's pre-K-12 enrollment, which is 4,874 students, plus West Marshall's 896 students, and then a little half of East Marshall's 609 students. It's a very interesting data fact. And the most recent census data shares that Marshalltown's poverty rate is 14.6%, or around 4,000 residents in Marshalltown are affected, compared to the state of Iowa's 11.1%. Keep in mind, this number uses the federal poverty measure for this data point. What I can share is that a family of 4 would earn less than $30,000 per year, or around $14.42 an hour for a full-time worker to be counted as in poverty. Data also shows that in Marshall County, a household with 2 adults and 2 children, we'll say young children, require an annual income of $62,650 just to meet their basic needs. That means that both adults must earn at least $15.03 an hour, or combined that for a total of $30.06 per hour to meet basic needs. Across Iowa, 1 in 7 working households can't consistently meet their basic needs. The basic needs budget covers what it takes to survive rather than thrive. Rent, utilities, food, healthcare, childcare, clothing, household expenses, and transportation. That's it. No budget for school field trips, emergencies, savings, or other items most of us would classify as basic needs. MICA works to bridge the gaps between what households earn and meeting their needs. Those needs vary by community and depend on each family and their individual situation, alongside available community resources, services, and on and on. Our work in the spaces of health, early childhood education, and family development are pillars to helping support and build capacity toward self-sufficiency. However, our work also addresses the systematic issues to bring awareness, understanding, and change. Most of our programs at MICA require eligibility based on income and poverty level thresholds in order to provide support to those in Marshalltown working to make ends meet. For example, the Energy Assistance Program income threshold for a family of 4 equates to $52,500 versus, remember that poverty level that I shared, a family of 4 of $30,000? So again, an opportunity to fill a different gap. But for our Head Start program, an early childhood education childcare option for a family of 4, they would need to earn less than $39,000 to qualify. A small example of the complexities our agency and the families we serve have to maneuver and prove to meet goals and change their lives. Just to give you a quick snapshot of the services and programming that we're providing in Marshalltown, these examples include energy assistance, water assistance, child and maternal health, WIC, a nutrition program that includes breastfeeding support and formula, which was very important this year during the formula shortage, energy efficiency improvements, early childhood education and development, family development, and economic opportunities connected to community resources. And we also have multiple programs in collaboration with the Marshalltown Community School District, which were not even in that service count that I told you about, serving that many people. These programs are Bobcat University, a summer learning program, attendance support, the teen outreach program, dental sealants, nutrition education, just a few examples. Just to give you some context of what the capacity of what we're serving, this year currently we've served 1,200 households in energy assistance, 185 children and their families are in early childhood education and development, and 2,079 individuals participated in WIC in the fiscal year of 22. And those Marshalltown programs I talked about for the school district collaboration, we served over 1,900 students. To do all of this work, MICA has 60 direct service staff serving Marshalltown, and that number grows a little bit in the summer when we have that summer learning program. In addition, our administrative offices are located in Marshalltown, over there on 18th Avenue, which brings an additional 40 staff to the community every day. Our work is complex and robust, and we are guided by community needs, strategic plans, organizational standards, and grant requirements, alongside our mission, vision, and values. And those are just a few examples. Today, we are in the preliminary stages of a community needs assessment, And the top 5 needs we are hearing from Marshalltown families include obtaining food, paying bills such as rent and energy bills, coping with high stress and mental health, offering enrichment for their children, and finding jobs. To put a couple of the identified needs into perspective, this year we have had an increase of 1,000 energy assistant applications compared to last year across our service area. Again, that's those 5 counties, not just Marshalltown. In addition, Iowans are affected by increases in food prices, estimated to be up 7.9% from 2022, in which we face a 9.9% spike in 2022. It is times like these we can see firsthand when the pressures of the economy happen, but it seems they hit those with the least the hardest and first. Lastly, I would like to leave you with a success story, and a story that shares that change can and does happen when we meet the needs, build on strengths, and partner to meet goals of individuals and families we serve. Micah's infant toddler development specialist conducted a routine developmental screening with a child enrolled in our early Head Start or early education program. The screening indicated concerns in multiple developmental areas related to the signs and symptoms of autism characteristics. The parents of the child at that time were not concerned with the screening results, but over the course of months of services, Micah's staff continued parent support and services to the child. Throughout this relationship and service delivery, the parents recognized the need to address the developmental screening results and were referred to early access through the AEA. Indeed, the child qualified for early access services, and additional information was also shared by the child's pediatrician of concerns with autism as well. Together, the infant toddler development specialist, the early childhood providers through early access, and the pediatrician collaborated to support the family in gaining further evaluation for autism. Due to Micah's work in early identification of developmental needs, the child and family were connected to additional professional supports. Today, this fall, the child's needs are being met through the Marshalltown Community School District's pre-K program, and specialized services are in place to address the concerns related to autism. Early intervention, family support, and a seamless transition to the services needed for this child and family made a difference. Again, one of the hundreds of success stories we are part of and proud of to continue. So thank you again for the Marshalltown community for supporting Micah, and the City Council for your time and support this evening. I'm happy to address any questions or come back again another time. Thank
Any
you.
questions or comments by any councilors?
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
I've seen firsthand how well Micah helps. We're very lucky to have him in the community. When we started the Marshalltown United for Ukraine, Micah was one of the ones that immediately jumped in along with other service groups and created an entire net to be able to help those people in areas that, quite frankly, we wouldn't have been able to. They've been great to work with, and kudos for what you do.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else up here? Anyone from the public?
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
Clarissa, and, for the record, we're not
We're
related.
not related.
Which is good for you. When you talked about the needs defined by the family served, you talked about
Yes.
food, paying bills, mental health issues, enrichment, and jobs. Is it pretty equal across the board, or is there one that stands out more than the other? I mean, are they, I'm assuming they're all intertwined, but could you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I can. Again, these are preliminary results, and we are looking at, we had results from English-speaking families and non-English-speaking families and combine those needs. So a little different, but obtaining food was number one between both groups, and on down the line was pretty much the order that we saw. Yeah. Again, preliminary and more to come on that, but we're seeing the access to food across our counties larger than we've seen that in the years past.
And is that just because of inflation, the cost?
I would say that's a good indicator.
Thank you, Your
Yeah,
Honor.
thank you.
Anybody else up here? Otherwise,
Yeah.
One thing that I just wanted to mention was the city and the MICA are partners on some funding. The city was the recipient of a community development block grant for community facilities, working with Marty at Region 6, who is here in the background, who is administering that grant for a new location build out at Lynn Street and First Avenue.
Right, Marty, first, yes.
And so
204, yeah.
that is one way that
Yeah.
we are partnering together, as the city is the grant applicant and receiving the funding that we're passing through to MICA.
Yes, we're excited about getting that up and going, to have a direct services in one location in Marshalltown. That'll be really helpful for a lot of people. Okay, great. Thank you again.
Anyone from the public? Because I'd like to make a comment too.
Oh, yeah.
Seared in my brain is what happened when we had the tornado, truly. And there were a couple entities that stepped up and really shone, if that's the word, instead of shined. MICA was certainly one of those, truly. We had those ex-military people here who bivouacked in the Y, and they were wonderful. RSVP did a nice job of trying to coordinate volunteers with the people that lost their homes and places like that. But MICA, we couldn't have done it without MICA. And then you did it again in 2021 with the derecho. So just from a mayor's perspective, I got to tell you, we sure appreciate what you do here.
Thank you. And we're just blessed to have community partners that are alongside us every step of the way. So thank you.
Good report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to motions H. We just have one of those. What's the first?
Motion to approve a 5-day liquor license for Midnight Ballroom at the Central Iowa Fairgrounds for a rodeo on April 8th, with a premise update for Central Iowa Fairgrounds to the activities building during this event.
Floor is open for motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll
Roll-
call.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
No.
Isom,
Yes.
Very good. That one carried on to resolutions. And what's our first one of those?
Resolution 2023-51, accepting the Destination Iowa grant of $2 million for creative placemaking projects.
I don't think it'll be hard to solicit a motion to approve that one.
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, just to give a little introduction, it was very big news on late Thursday, Friday, that the city is receiving $2 million in Destination Iowa funding from the state of Iowa for 4 projects, including the trail bridge across Lynn Creek, a trailhead, as well as the water plaza. And then the 4th project is with the Fisher Governor Foundation for renovation, phase 1 renovation of the Martha Ellen Ty Theater. And so the resolution is written so that we can accept the funding. We don't know exactly when we'll get a contract in place, but that this resolution would authorize the mayor to sign that. One other thing I want to point out is the information in the memo related to what we applied for as total project cost was different than the press release, because the governor's office or IDA had asked us for updated figures, and there were changes in the theater and the water plaza. So that is the difference there, but we are very excited about moving this forward and learning about all the requirements that are going to come with it.
I'd feel funny not to recognize John Hall and Amber Danielson, who are both here tonight, for the work that they've done on both of those projects, on this project to get that done, and for our grant writers extraordinaire. Michelle Sponheimer and Jessica Kinzer have just been wonderful. And, every budget we have about $2 million on the docket, but receiving a grant like that for $2 million to improve our community is just really something else, I have to say. I've been told I should quit editorializing so much, so you can kick me if you like. Any comments or questions up here or out in the public?
Good evening, Amber Danielson, 803 West Main Street, Executive Director of the Arts and Culture Alliance. I just wanted to reiterate some of the information that we shared in the press release today. As you know, the projects in this funding will directly tie to the Arts and Culture Master Plan that was recently adopted. We know that cities that weave arts and culture into the fabric of our daily life become a destination, drive economic prosperity, and become regional focal points. But most importantly, they bloom into a springboard of imagination and creative home for their own residents. As many of you know, the development of the Lynn Creek District's been on our radar for decades. It is a continually developing destination, centrally located, and started all the way back in 2007 with community visioning that resulted in Imagine, which included the Lynn Creek District as one of the 7 big ideas. The vision for that district included transforming the Lynn Creek banks, gathering spaces, events, sporting, recreation, and since the development of that plan, many of these projects have come to fruition. Most recently, we know the district's seen new housing, expanded parks, expanded cultural opportunities, and there's an extreme opportunity here for this district to focus on creative placemaking that's going to tie together these cultural, recreational, and this connectivity of the centrally located area. Locally, from a creative placemaking perspective, we can directly point to the 13th Street District as an example of creative placemaking at its best. The 13th Street District showcased grassroots effort in enhancing a space with a creative approach to foster economic development, recreational opportunities, and most importantly, community pride. A creative approach on development in this area has led to a unique experience and is filled with people and vibrancy on a daily basis. We know it's home to Iowa's Best Burger, our first outdoor lit futsal court in the state of Iowa, our largest public art installation, one-of-a-kind natural playscape, and so much more that I could go on and on about. This is a creative placemaking at its best, and it's a successful model that we are really excited to adopt in other areas in our community. The partnerships and collaboration that has gone into this application has been really awesome to see come together, and we're excited for these projects. Thank you.
Thank you. While you're taking your seat, I should mention that you just got an award on March 1. The Governor's Arts Award in 2023 is an emerging arts leader. So Mr. Thompson wanted to bring people up to date for those that don't watch the national news to catch the geese story. For those of you that don't read the paper or follow social media, that's a big deal. So congratulations, Amber. And I'm editorializing again, sorry. Roll call?
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Very good, that carried. On to the next item.
Public hearing and resolution 2023-52, approving plans, specifications, form of contract, and cost for the Marshalltown facade rehabilitation project in the city of Marshalltown, Iowa, being project number ECO 21002.
I declare the public hearing is open at 6:02 PM. Did you receive any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
It's time for public comments. Seeing nobody rush, well, okay.
Marty Wymore, West Region 6 Resource Partners.
I would have considered you a staff comment, but no,
Okay.
Thanks, Marty. Go ahead.
So we're proceeding with the bidding schedule on the Marshalltown DTR project for 9 different buildings here in downtown. We had our pre-bid conference last week with a lovely storm of some sort. We're opening bids on March 28th and hope to be back to the council on April 10th. With a recommendation for a contract and contractor for the project. This is our second time bidding this project, and yeah, I guess we hope to have better results this time around, but we'll see, I guess, what the prices look like. So we did have, I think, 3 different contractors at the walkthrough last week, so we're hoping for the best. So. This is the last time we can feasibly bid this project, so if the bids don't come back good, we'll still have to massage things around and proceed with something. So I can answer any questions you may have.
Your Honor, if I may?
You may.
Hey, Marty, since we dropped one of the addresses, the state, obviously the state changed the deadline for us because we missed this last October?
There was a bidding deadline that we had, and we missed that a little bit, and then they extended it, so.
So the extension, we're good with the dates listed. With the one address dropping out, does that change the state's involvement in this, the dollar figure?
No. Yeah, I guess we went from 10 buildings down to 9, so we're still okay with the contract limits.
Thank you, Marty. Thanks, Your Honor.
Welcome. Any other questions or comments about the public comment? If not, now is time for staff review.
Heather Thomas, Public Works, pitchy hitting for Michelle this evening. I think Marty has summarized it for the most part. We've had 2 addendums on this project so far that did push the time that we'll receive bids back to the 28th that Marty mentioned. We have a base cost estimate of about $778,000. By the time you add the bases, the alternates and contingency, we're up just above $1.7 million. And if there's questions, I'm happy to try to answer those questions, or Marty can assist on some of those as well.
Are there any council questions or comments? Okay, I will declare the public hearing as closed at 6:05 PM. Do you need a motion on this one? We do. Anybody wish to move approval of the resolution?
I'd move for approval, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Carried. Very good. On to item J, ordinances, one of those tonight.
Ordinance 15058 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa by amending Chapter 76 Traffic Schedules, Schedule 8 Speed Limits. Second reading.
Entertain a motion.
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Good evening, Heather Thomas, Public Works. This is the second reading of the ordinance to adjust speed limits on Lincoln Way. I know we went into some more details last time, and I'm happy to go over those if there's any questions. But in summary, this is shifting the point of where the speed gets reduced down to 30 mile an hour from currently at South 12th Street back to near and Rutledge Road. In addition to that, so we don't go from a 15-mile change in speed, from 45 to 30, we also have an intermediate speed limit of reduction down to 40 mile an hour at Highland Acres Road. With that, I will open it up to questions.
None from the council. Let's see if any questions or comments are out there from the public.
Lee Botter, 401 Orchard Drive. First of all, I do support this speed limit situation. I've lived out on Orchard Drive for 21 years, and we see crazy drivers out there, to be very candid. And I did have my niece recently. She was in an accident where someone rear-ended her when she was coming into town, stopped at Orchard. The question that I have would be, I guess, Heather, where's the automated traffic enforcement planning to be located?
Yes, the automated traffic enforcement, the police department has selected the location right near Orchard Drive. So right on the south side of that intersection is where that enforcement operation is planned to go. That was one of the reasons why the shift of the 30 mile an hour was not shifted just to Orchard Drive. It was shifted back further to the west to Ann Rutledge Road because we wanted to make sure everybody had time to get down to the speed limit and you weren't having a change in speed anywhere near that enforcement.
Thanks for the question and answer. Any other public comment? Roll call.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Bodyhoff.
Yes.
Very good. Carried. Slow down, folks, or there's going to be some automatic traffic enforcement if we pass it the next time. To discussion items K, I guess I can highlight those. The first one is the 4-year 2024 evaluation update.
Good evening, Diana Steiner, Finance Director. So just kind of wanted to go over some things with you. So we knew that fiscal year 24 would be challenging. We knew that coming into the year, there were many things going on, one of which was the multi-residential class is no longer, it got rolled into the residential class. So that dropped that valuation. We also knew that the businesses would be levied at the $150,000 residential rate first and then go to their 90% rollback. So we knew that. We didn't know how much it would cost us, but we did know that coming in as well. And then the other thing we knew for sure was that the rollback on the businesses, the going from 0 to 90% rollback, we knew that backfill was being phased out over 8 years, and we were in the second year for FY24. So we knew all that coming into January. So when we got our valuations, we put the budget together with your help, and you knew that we were short in the general fund, and so you helped us close that. And then the legislature started passing bills. So just kind of want to go over a few things here. So as far as the taxable valuations, 100% taxable valuations, those did not change. What changed was the assessed values did not change. Only the taxable values changed. So you can see historically where we're at. It's very hard to predict where we'll end up. You can see it swinging back and forth from year to year. Different things are causing the valuations to go up and down. But so that sheet is updated. It did not change from before. So now we want to go into the property tax classifications. So for the residential, we did see an overall increase. However, because of the legislative session, doing the backfill, doing the reduction from the 56% to the 54% of the rollback, it did change it. So that those changes are in column H here. So just in the residential, it went down $19 million. Commercial went down $1.2 million. Industrial went down $120,000. So overall, just with the legislation that they put in this session, it dropped our valuations by $20 million. And again, you can see the rollback historically. So for the residential, we thought coming into January we were at 56%, and it went to 54.6%. And then again, the commercial and business properties, the first 150,000 is at the residential rate, and then it's at 90% after that. Again, lost our backfill, or phasing out our backfill. So how does that play into our budget? The taxable valuations, we're capped at $8.10 for our regular valuations and 27 cents for our emergency levy. Try and get this bigger here. So before the new March legislation, we were at 7.7 million for our 810 levy, and it dropped to 7.5. Our emergency levy went from 256,000 to 250,000, but they are giving us backfill for the business property tax credit, which we didn't have before. So our revenues did change. So, any questions about this portion of the valuations? Okay. That's all on that discussion item.
I think we're ready to move on to the next one unless there's any questions. So So we wanted to, the memo that's in your packet is lengthy, has a lot of different topics and things, so we wanted to just get things summarized on the screen for you, and everything is green, because not just for St. Patrick's Day, but green is where we want to be with our budget as well. And so we just want to go through kind of some of the biggest impacts and talk those through with you, and then we do have some areas where we will need your assistance in getting us to the point of being able to submit a budget.
Okay. So there's several areas here that have changed due to the new legislation that was signed in March. The loss of dollars. So in our capital improvement tax levy, because our taxable valuations went down, then that forced our dollar amount that we could levy for capital improvements. Same thing with the general fund, the general levy, and the library levy. So can you, Jessica, pull it back to the other agenda item?
Which one are you trying to open up?
Can you bring back the property tax sheet, the comparison? So this is where we've been all during this budget cycle. We were at this dollar amount. This shows that what, after the March legislation that the governor signed, where we're at. So you can do a comparison. So the difference in these dollars for the regular 810 levy, we were reduced to 167,000. The library went down by 5,500, and the emergency levy went down by 5,500, and then the capital projects went down by almost $14,000. So when these levies change, then the backfill allocation, the 90% backfill for commercial property, changes the allocation. So you can see the new allocation and the one that it was before. And then the business property tax credit, which is supposed to fund the $150,000 of the businesses, that changed as well. So the total difference in the that affects the general fund is about $165,000. That's in green. So earlier in the year budget cycle, we did the maximum property tax levy for certain levies, and those certain levies are highlighted in yellow. So the maximum that we had requested was almost 11.9 million. So with the new valuations and forcing those fixed percentages down, we would be at 11.7. So therefore, we do not need another maximum property tax levy hearing because we're not requesting more than we originally did. So is there any questions on this sheet?
Can you stop moving it so I can
Yep.
start the presentation again?
Yep.
Okay, so the first one that we're going to throw at you that Diana just mentioned is that there is nearly a $14,000 decrease in the capital improvement property tax levy. When we went back and looked at that, we had not fully allocated all of those dollars, so we were able to absorb that minor revenue adjustment. And then conveniently at the same time, Chief Tupper came forward and he found vehicles. And so we knew we wanted to get that in. That was on the consent agenda before you tonight. So we changed the current year allocation for the police vehicle replacement to 190,000 from 130,000 to account for that. And that didn't create a problem with a negative balance in Fund 030 until fiscal year 25. And so we basically shaved $2,500 off our staff computer replacement to make everything work. And so this is the big change from Senate File 181 that impacts the capital projects. And so otherwise there is no council action required for this, but we want you to know about those changes ahead of bringing back anything in sort of final document form. The next area is one where we need some direction from you, and so we'll kind of go through these. I do want to say that chart for some reason did not show up in the memo, which I'm not sure why, but I can email that out separately if you would like me to. So as Diana mentioned, by the time you add the 810 levy and the 27-cent emergency levy, we have a deficit in the general fund of nearly $165,000. And so we went back, looked at, okay, where are we at on all of these things? And so just to run through very quickly, we are looking to start the fiscal year with $3.5 million as fund balance in the general fund. This does not include the capital, or does not include the cash flow reserve that we have allocated some others to. That is a separate kind of pot of money that has separate strings attached with it if you'd ever want to use it. The Government Finance Officers Association states that 20% is their ideal target for what is a healthy fund balance. And so we are right at that point, essentially, with that 3.5 million. We certainly could choose to do nothing as a one-time measure, which is doing nothing means that we would be using the fund balance in the general fund for that. It is truly like a one-time thing. Those dollars don't regenerate. The nice thing that we've had in past fiscal years, which I think it'll be interesting to see how it'll work out in this next fiscal year, is that we've had unstaffed positions that have resulted in basically not exceeding or meeting even our budgeted amounts for personnel. So we've been able to essentially get there. So no guarantees that we will or will not need the 165,000, but it is likely. Any questions on fund balance? Next one is the one that we talked about pretty heavily back on January 30th when we were bringing the general fund back into alignment with what we knew at that point in time. There is council-designated local option sales tax that would be available to program as a transfer into the general fund in the amount of $165,000. Essentially be doing what we're already doing. So it's not any different. They'd just be increasing that dollar amount. And again, like I said, with the fund balance, we only transfer what we need. It's not like it's just a set number that makes its way to the general fund. So it might be that we wouldn't need the whole 165,000, but more than likely we're going to need the full 160,000, which you had previously designated. And so that all trues up at the end of the fiscal year. Any questions on council designated local option sales tax? Okay, and then the final one was, there were still two items that were left on the table, which the feedback from council at the January 30th meeting was not to move forward with them, but I would be remiss in not doing my job if I didn't still say that there is an option there. And while I don't think that is going to be the way that you will go, I did want to just show that that's what the graph is showing, is just how big of a percentage of our personnel expenditures are in the general fund kind of over a 5-year period of time, including the current year we're in, the year that we're planning for. And when I looked at those costs too, there has been quite a bit of inflationary pressure that we have seen as well, which you would come to expect. We kind of talked about that with utility cost and fuel cost and some other things as we went through the budget as well. So just wanted to throw those back out at you, that there are some additional cuts that were not selected on January 30th, though certainly not popular at the time. So at this point, we are looking for your feedback and some direction on how to plug that hole of nearly 165,000, if you would like to plug it.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Jessica, what do we have for ARPA money that we could use to plug into this equation somewhere?
So we all of our ARPA funds are technically allocated. It would be taking from something. The big area that we haven't spent anything right now is the State Street project, which we're getting closer to the point of incurring expenses, but that's the large allocation that we have out there. That's nearly half of our total allocation.
I have a question for Jessica. If we take this out of local option sales tax money, that's kind of a one-time Band-Aid, and could that come back to bite us next year?
Well, one of the things that I would like to recommend is that we do have some set amount of local option sales tax coming into the general fund each year, like we did before we did a change in election, and that was 5% or generally 170,000. Now, obviously, if you're talking about 160 the first round and 160 the second round, we're well over that amount. But I do think we need to talk about some set allocation being designated to the general fund. I don't know that it will come back to bite us. I think the thing that is hard to project as we sit here now is if we enter a recession, what is that going to do with spending in the county, and how is that going to negatively impact this revenue? But there are also a bill currently active in the legislature that would increase the amount of local option sales tax that we would get. And so it is really hard to tell what that future looks like. I don't think 165,000 will break the bank at all. Just looking here, Diana's projecting a year-end fund balance at June 30th of 2024 of nearly $2 million.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
So how about to move ARP around, general obligation debt that's not allocated to any projects? What kind of figure would we have there?
Yeah, so looking at the capital improvement plan and really looking at Fund 363 is the fund where we borrowed the part of money that we need for State Street. Everything's pretty well allocated in there except for interest payments. So that money that is sitting there and incurring interest, which would be available to assign to any of the projects that are in there. Fund 364 has, I think it might be contingency on the East Main Street project, but there's a placeholder of $80,000 that's in Fund 364. 364 also doesn't have any interest built in that's being allocated out to a project as well. But those bond funds have been on hand since December, and so they are incurring some interest at this point. The finance department, hats off to them. They've been very aggressive with going out and purchasing some 12-month or less CDs at some really great interest rates. And so we're seeing a bigger return than we would if we just left things in our checking account. So I think there will be some interest dollars. I just don't know when we might have those dollars.
Other comments, questions, or direction from the council?
Your Honor,
Yes.
what I'm kind of ruminating on in my own mind is I lean towards option one, but what I know our city administrator is looking for us is some direction at when that would come back. I have questions about when we'll have a good be able to identify how much will ultimately be needed. But my thought is go with option one, and then as that pinch starts to be felt and we know that there's a need, approach the council for use of local option sales tax at a spearfish number, the actual number that we need operationally.
And I think that would be, the time when we'd be coming back to you would be January of next year as part of the fiscal year 25 budget, where we've really refigured where we're at in the general fund through 6 months and have that data and can get you a better number. And then May is when we have to do a budget amendment, if we're going to do a budget amendment. And so that's when we can refine things even further at that point.
Other input up here? How about from the public? Staff wanting a motion type for direction?
Certainly, if Councilmember Walker would want to make his motion, we can go with that. Otherwise, if there's no objections to that, that's what we would bring back to you for the next meeting to on a resolution to actually set the public hearing for the budget.
Everybody comfortable with that as a consensus, or would somebody like to make a motion instead?
Your Honor, I have a question about that approach, if I may.
You may.
Worst case scenario with that is if come next year, we have spent all of the local option sales tax, then what do we do?
I don't think I would recommend that we spend all of our local option sales tax because it has been there as sort of a way to cover a lot of things that come up. So I wouldn't recommend that. So I would like to say hopefully we won't get to that point because we've had that conversation before.
So that being said, if we need to put a place marker, whatever you call it, in local option sales tax to hold the 165,000, then why wouldn't we just move the 165,000 in now?
The reason that I would suggest we not move it now is because it's an estimate, and I'd like to see what the actual costs coming in look like, and just move the appropriate amount at the right time.
Remember that this is just a budget, so we would budget the transfer of lost into the general fund. We wouldn't actually move the money until the end of the fiscal year.
And one more question, Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
Playing devil's advocate and representing the taxpayers, why can't we balance the general fund budget?
We can. I mean, we can talk about this a little bit longer. We don't have to have our budget submitted until April 30th. And so if there's a desire for further conversation on how to do that, we can certainly do that.
Other discussion or a motion, or should we, failing to hear either of those, should we consider the staff has its direction? Going once, twice?
I do, Your Honor, if I may.
Go ahead.
I think we've beaten around the general fund balance quite a bit this spring. I guess myself, I'm into option 2. Just go ahead and use the designated local option sales tax money. I can't see any further expenditure reductions. I mean, if we're going to get a big enough number like that, we're going to have, you're back to the furlough, which I'm definitely against. Although I do think voluntary furlough should be offered in case people want to take a furlough on those days. But definitely not a mandatory. So I'm going with option 2. That's taxpayer money. I would just as soon go ahead and use lost money.
Yeah, we don't really have a motion on the floor yet, so.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we use option 2, council designated lost money.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Anybody wish to have further discussion up here or out there? Let's roll the call the roll.
Walker?
No.
Hoop?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottiehoff?
Yes.
Schneider?
No.
Thompson?
Yes.
I even lost track of the count. Okay, is that carried? Very good. Staff has direction. Thank you.
Okay, the next topic we need your guidance on is the total property tax levy. So, first 2 months of the calendar year, when we brought, excuse me, when we brought the budget to you, we were trying to keep the property tax levy at the same rate that it's been in the last several years, which is at the 15.36. We did use over $2 million to buy down that levy using local option sales tax, property tax relief, fund balance, and also the employee benefit levies. So, question is, do you want to also now keep it the same? We would need to kick in another $127,000, which could come from Fund 200, which is the debt service levy, or it could come from the local option sales tax, property tax relief. So that's one option. Another option is to keep it where it is right now, which is 15.49. That would cost a homeowner $7.50 more if they had a $100,000 assessed house. So it's a very small increase. And then if you do want to buy it down, do you want to use debt service fund, 200? That's the money we levy for to put the principal and interest payments in, and then we pay it back out of there. There has been a fund balance accruing the last many years. We're never totally assured of getting the backfill, so we don't budget to spend it, so it has grown a little bit. If we were to actually close on a bond before December, we would have to have an interest payment in June. So leaving some money there is handy to do that.
I couldn't hear the last part of that, I'm sorry.
Leaving some money in Fund 200 is handy to have in there in case we do need to make an interest payment in June.
Thank you.
And then the third option is we could just increase it. It doesn't have to say at 15.49 or 15.36. We could save some of our local option sales tax and raise it. So those are kind of the three different options.
To option 3 probably seems a little like out of the woodwork of where this is coming from. And I think the thing to note is in bullet point number 1 that we're using $2 million that we were originally trying to buy it down to $15.36. That then transformed to $15.49 with the loss of valuation. And so we don't project that we'll have those same resources on hand next fiscal year to be able to buy it down any further. There will be some amount of money that would be available between Fund 200 and the property tax relief beyond what would be expecting to get in. But that's where it's more of a how do you want to look at that buying down of the total property tax levy? Is $2 million, you just want to leave it this year? Or is there wanting to save any part of that $2 million for next year?
Your Honor, if I may?
You may?
For my foggy brain and everybody else's, what is in the local option sales tax, property tax relief fund? Is that 200 or is that a different fund?
It's a different fund. Just had it here.
That's sitting at over $1 million itself, isn't it?
We're projecting an ending balance of $193,693 in the property tax relief section, and that's what we're talking about here, is do you use all your property tax relief money in this year, and then you're stuck with whatever you get for fiscal year 25, or do you hold on to that little amount in order to leave it at 1549, or do you pull some back of what we've already committed or said we'd do to keep some for next fiscal year?
And what's the dollar figure to bring it, or to keep it at 1536?
127,000.
The taxpayers have already paid us the money. It's in the local option sales tax property tax relief fund. I say move it in.
It's restricted for that purpose.
And that's what I'm saying we should use it for. We shouldn't have, in my opinion, we've talked about this before, in previous years, we should never have bankrolled that money in the first place. I know there's arguments that we wanted to keep a level tax rate, let assessments, be the up and down, but the tax rate would stay the same. But the taxpayers have paid this money already. It's their money. Let's put it back in there. I don't care if you apply just the 127,000 or the whole 190, but I think it's their money for property tax relief. So I would strongly be in favor of that.
Your Honor, I guess if not knowing what the future holds and with possible caps into the property taxes and otherwise, I guess my next question will be 2 years from now, Gary, since you won't be on the council, what services do you want to cut from a city service perspective? Because that's the situation we're talking about here. We wipe that out, and then we get to a point where we're capped in what we can actually do, and then it's general fund's already struggling, so until we see the growth that we're driving for, of which is some of the projects at hand, all right, what heads are we cutting, what services are we cutting, and at the end of the day, that's what this team up here will have to explain outside of the stability conversation, which is what we've driven towards. So money in the bank, I get it. Money that the taxpayers have put in, maybe you won't have to answer, which is the easy decision then today of spend the money when we got it. But when we don't have any money, it's how many police officers are we cutting? What's the fire department look like? World-class library. Why improve it anymore? Because we can't. That's the conversation we're having today. So I guess I'm completely opposed to that. I actually lean toward option 3.
Your Honor, can I at least answer one of those points?
Yes, you may.
Thank you for telling the public that if I choose to run for reelection, that I'm going to lose. So I appreciate that vote of confidence. Haven't made that decision yet. So I strictly or realistically have no problem with the levy changing every year. I've always thought the property tax levy, fund should have been used 100% every year. We had a chance earlier to talk about ways to fix the general fund earlier tonight. I don't know if right now is appropriate, but I see a lot of different ways to fix that, other than furloughing or laying off staff. So we can have that conversation later. But no, I have not made a decision if I'm going to run for reelection or not. But once again, thanks for that vote of confidence. Thanks, Your Honor.
Your Honor, one follow-up.
Sure.
Just going off prior conversations and saying that you weren't running again, so not that you were going to lose if you ran. I think the piece of it that I struggle with is it's the one sense of stability, right? We don't have control over assessments. We don't have control over what the state is doing, which is continually taking money out of the pocket of which we've ran this business off of. And so the one piece that we do have control over, I think stability is not a bad thing rather than jumping from one versus the other. So from a public perspective, I think it's a difficult conversation when we go down 10 cents one year and up $1 the next year, and there's no predictability in what that levy will be and the resulting dollars that are associated with it from a personal perspective. So I think that piece of it, is the portion that I think we can control the narrative and conversation of what is at least the slice of the pie that we control of what it will be. And to say we were okay with having zero control, I guess I struggle with that.
According to our manual, I'm supposed to make sure that everybody's had a chance to speak after one counselor has. And so let me solicit any input from counselors other than Mr. Thompson and Mr. Isom. Anybody else want to weigh in?
Quick question, how long have we been at 1536?
I believe it's since fiscal year 20? Maybe even fiscal year 19.
One year we raised it 10 cents, but it's been that way for probably at least 3 years. And it was 10, we raised it 10 cents the year before that, so 6 years within 10 cents.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I tend to agree with Gabe's assessment that this number is going to go up in future years, and I think we'd be smarter to start raising a little bit right now.
Anybody else for input up here? Public comment?
Well, I think if that's option 3 is what you want to consider, I think Diana has some general numbers of if we pull back some of that property tax relief for local option sales tax, what that will do.
Okay, so for every 10,000, it would go up 1 penny. The rate would go up 1 penny for every 10,000. For every 100,000, it'd be 10 cents. Would change the levy. So right now we're at over $2 million that we bought down.
932,000 of that was the local option sales tax, property tax relief.
Mm-hmm. So again, if you could kind of give me a target, I can give you a number of what you might want to change it to, and how that relates to what the homeowners would actually pay. So a $100,000 assessed house, you're paying a taxable valuation of $54,000. So it's very tiny savings it's a lot of money to change the levy, but the homeowners don't really see that much effect.
Remind me again, it would change for a homeowner $7.50 per year for somebody owning a $100,000 home?
Yes.
And that was for going from what to what?
1536 to 1549.
So it was 120, we'd have to kick in $127,000.
Right.
And then the homeowner who had an assessed value of 100,000.
13 cents on the tax
Yeah.
levy equals $7.50
All right. And if my
for a
math,
$100,000 assessed home.
yeah, so $15 for somebody owning a $200,000 house.
Yes.
Anybody else up here? Do you feel like you have staff direction, or do you need a motion for direction?
Well, if you're going with option 3, we would need to know how much of an increase you're thinking of.
So that is the thing that is unique with, well, I don't know if it's unique with Iowa budgets, but is different is we can always go down after a public hearing has been held before you would do final consideration and adoption of a budget, but you can't go up. So if there is a desire to go higher than 1549 right now, that action would be needed in order to put together the budget. But at that public hearing and after, when you have the resolution in front of you to vote on, you can go down from whatever level is there.
So are you looking for an exact number from us for option 3?
I think we would be looking for an exact number if you want it to go higher.
And it was a 13-cent difference to account for the $7,500 for $100,000. So if we went up another 13, it would be the same, $7,500 for the $100,000 home, or
$7.50.
$750. What did I say? $750. Yeah. No, sorry. Okay.
Jessica, can you bring up the other spreadsheet? Here, I'll bring it up. Thought I had another one up here.
Was it part of the agenda?
No.
Did you, if you open it, it's down on the bottom.
Okay.
No, you'd already have it open if you've. So I think the point we're trying to make is going above 1549, it's now or never on that option. Otherwise, to go to 1536 is something that still stays out there if we move forward with setting it at 1549, which is where it is currently.
Your Honor.
Right.
Is
Okay.
it a one number only? I mean, if we wanted to see two different options of what that looks like from a dollar number perspective in front of us to work the math and come back as we discuss, or does it have to be a one number and that's it is what it is?
If you would say, I think your direction would be if you wanted to say of the 932,000 that is currently allocated, you want to pull back 400,000 of that, that would be something that we could work with as well to get to what that number is.
So on this spreadsheet here, so again, it's we bought down 932,000 at a council designated, lost. If you would take.
Property tax relief.
Property
lost
tax relief, I'm
tax
sorry,
relief,
property
yep.
tax relief. So you can see if you did buy it down at a different amount, what it would be. So for example, if you used 500,000, then the rate would be 15.94. And the $100,000 assessed value homeowner would pay $28 more a year. So that's kind of what this chart is. Is it big enough for you guys to see? Or need me to enlarge it?
So buying down 300,000 would result in a $17 increase for
Right.
a $100,000 home. Okay.
Mhm.
Anybody have a number on there they'd like to propose as a motion?
I'll propose 16.
Is that a motion, Gabe?
Row 16? Or what?
16 based off the number you have as far as what the levy is at. That's what we're talking about here, so I don't, what's the question around 16? That's the number I guess I'm throwing out. You talk about option 1, 2, and 3. I said 3, and so I said 16.
You want the overall levy to be $16?
You're asking us to throw out a number based off what
Okay.
I'm looking at, so I'm saying.
Is that a motion, Your Honor?
It is a motion.
this
There's-
is-
I'll second that if that's a motion.
Okay.
So this one would be the closest, it'd be 400,000.
It would be a number between 400 and 500,000 that we would pull back, and we would figure out what that exact number is.
And again, the result for a homeowner would be somewhere between $22 and $28.50 at a $100,000 home.
Right.
Okay. Everybody understand the motion? Let's call the roll.
Is there a public comment or no?
Well, we could do public comment again here. Sure.
Thank you.
Mark Eaton, 1007 South 10th Avenue. Gabe Isom is up for election in November, I think. I can save you $109,450. Take $100,000 away from the Fisher Community Center, $9,000 away from the band, and $450,000 membership to the Chamber of Commerce. And I just heard Micah say that 6,000 people in Marshalltown are below the poverty level. You want to raise their property tax rate. I think that's awesome.
Doris Kinnick, 2020 Catalina Place. I'm looking at this number and I'm just like, I can't believe you guys are trying to do this. What are you trying to do to us? Really? I'm a single mom. I work really hard to make the money that I've got, and I barely make ends meet. Please do not go with this motion. Think about the people that you are supposed to represent. Please. Thank you.
Lee Botter, 401 Orchard Drive. In this, I think the numbers tend to be a little bit skewed because of the new assessments that I've received on houses that we own, along with the fact that we pay more than just the city tax. So when it comes out to the end value, I'd like to see what it would be on a $300,000 home, including all taxes, not just based on city. I also heard what Micah said, and that is a true thing that I hear in the community. We have people struggling. So please, 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 don't base it on what your budget is in your household. Base it on what other people are looking at. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Linda Clark, 306 South 2nd Avenue, where I've lived nearly 73 years. I have listened here this evening of the poverty level. There are a lot of us that are struggling. Now, the multiplex you have put into the residential property, and we're going to have cameras where we could have had voluntary compliance. This is going to be hard for everyone. There are a lot of retired people that are just barely trying to make ends meet as well. And this isn't good. You that are employed, those of us that are retired, we don't get the increases that you get. And this is really crazy, just like Mrs. Kinnick said.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
No.
Isom.
Yes.
Okay, that carried. Staff has its direction.
And that was the final thing.
That's it for the discussion. And the next item is a closed session, so thanks everybody for coming and.
You have your script that you need to read.
Oh, I have to go back to the beginning? Oh, you mean the closed session script.
Yeah. There's the actual closed session procedure.
Oh, boy. I will read that too. Yeah. Okay, well, let's see. First, we read what the full agenda item is, and that's closed section, entertaining a motion for closed section pursuant to section 21.5, subsection 1, paragraph J of the Iowa Code, just to discuss purchase of or sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price the governmental body would receive for that property. And the city of Marshalltown has an attorney-client relationship with Blanche Dallas by a resolution of 2021-161 approved on June 13, 2022. The council there may be council action by motion following the closed session if directed by the city's attorney. And with that proviso, I would ask for a motion to go into closed session.
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'd second.
Very good. And I will be inviting the city attorney to share opinion on legality of going into the closed session. I'm assuming we have that recommendation. Mr. Leininger?
Yeah, thanks, Your Honor. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'm familiar with the discussion, and it's my opinion that the council is legally entitled to go into closed session under section 21.51J.
Very good. Thank you. Now to item 5 on my cheat sheet list. That's discussion requires a roll call vote. We do now have everyone cleared from the